You space bastard! You killed my pan!
Alright, so I watched this movie a couple days ago. This is The Ice Harvest from 2005. It was a Harold Ramis movie. Actually, he directed it. If you don't know, he unfortunately passed away recently. And you're probably familiar with his extensive filmography. He directed Caddyshack, Groundhog Day. One of his probably most underrated movies is Bedazzled, which I really like. I actually watched that the other day. Own it. It's really good. So this is one of his movies. I've known about this movie for a long time, just never really got around to watching it. And since he did pass away recently, it's kind of more in my conscious. And it was on Netflix, so I just threw it on the other day. So yeah, if you don't know, you probably also know Harold Ramis more as Egon from the Ghostbusters. He's also a really good actor. Most recent role, he was made a cameo as Seth Rogen's dad in Knocked Up. But anyway, so he's the director here. And our main characters are played by John Cusack and Billy Bob Thornton. This is mostly a vehicle for John Cusack. He plays Charlie Arglist. And he's a lawyer, kind of a dirty lawyer. Works in Wichita, Kansas. And it's not a very big secret around the town that he is pretty connected to gangsters, the mob type thing. Everybody kind of jokes about it with him. So I was kind of out there in the open right away. And the movie's set on Christmas Eve. And from the title, there's a pretty bad ice storm happening. So right away, we meet Charlie and Vic. Vic is played by Billy Bob Thornton, and he is a strip club owner. We meet them together, and they just stole millions of dollars from a mobster. And so they're planning on leaving the town together and, heading off into paradise with all this money they just stole. That's how it starts. And Charlie actually stole the money. He's the one that kind of came up with the plan, but he needed Vic to help him out, kind of give him the confidence to do it. And so we leave. They're gonna split up for the rest of the day until they meet up later. They don't want to be seen together because it'd be too obvious. It's a pretty small town and everything like that. And Vic leaves with the money. Charlie trusts him with it. So after this point, we're basically just following Charlie the whole time. And he goes to the strip club they frequents, and right away he's just talking to one of the owners. I think she owns this strip club. Her name's Renata, and you can kind of tell right away he likes her. He has a thing for her. And Renata's played by Connie Nielsen. She's pretty recognizable. She's been in a lot of things. Gladiator, 1 Hour Photo, Basic, Devil's Advocate. Anyways, so Charlie's kind of talking to her, and you get the sense that he kind of wants her to leave with him. And when he's there, he starts seeing a guy, kind of like a hitman, or muscle. I'll say more of he's muscle for the mob. And Charlie starts to kind of freak out. And right away, he gets this in a panic mode. He thinks they're going to get caught for stealing all this money. And that's kind of sets the tone for the rest of the movie. Charlie's worried that they're going to get caught, and he's trying to evade all these, the muscle from the mafia guys. And he unfortunately breaks his phone right away towards the beginning while he slips on the ice, and so he can't call Vic, and he's kind of running around back and forth between different places to find him and try to figure this whole thing out. And that's kind of how the movie plays out. Because I don't want to really get into too much. It's kind of a mystery, kind of a thriller, so you don't want to give away too much of the plot. There's also another character, another side story that comes into play. Deals with Oliver Platt. Plays a guy named Pete, and Charlie runs into him at a restaurant, and he's super plastered. He's excuse me, he's really drunk, and we learn that Pete has married Charlie's ex-wife, and Pete's really drunk, but he really likes Charlie. They're pretty good friends. And so this whole subplot of Charlie's family that comes into play. And we learn that he has kids, and he ends up actually going to their house with Pete because Pete's too drunk to drive, so he gives him a ride and goes in. And it kind of turns into this whole side story of his failed marriage and these kids and everything like that. Excuse me. So it's pretty interesting. Oliver Platt's really good in that role. He's very convincing drunk. That's kind of happening. Gives you a little more backstory to Charlie, kind of what happens to him, how he got to where he is, and all that. Why he would want to steal this money. So there's a couple good storylines going on. And the ending gets really interesting. And like I said, I don't want to give too much of it away because it's a bit of a mystery. And you don't want to divulge too many of the secrets or the endings. Don't spoil everything. Let's see. I want to mention a couple other things. Maybe. So yeah, I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5. It's not, one of my favorite movies, especially for a Harold Ramis movie. I would say it's probably actually towards the lower end of the spectrum, but but his movies are so good. And it's hard to beat Groundhog Day, Bedazzled, Caddyshack. How do you compete with those? So for Harold Ramis movie, it's not the best, but still a decent movie. It's a decent watch. Just throw it on Netflix. It's very entertaining. This would be a good one to watch around Christmas because it's set on Christmas Eve. So if you're tired of the Miracle on 34th Street or Santa Claus and Christmas Story, like those movies, super upbeat ones, you can throw this on after you watch Die Hard, because that's probably the best Christmas movie ever. After that, and maybe Gremlins, you could watch The Ice Harvest, another good Christmas movie. It's a dark comedy, so it's got that going for it. So yeah, 3.5. It's good. It's solid. It's decent. Of course, Cusack's good. He's being him. Kind of reminded me of a little bit of his role maybe in like a Grosse Pointe Blank or something like that. Typical Cusack. And Billy Bob Thornton's good. His role's pretty small. Excuse me. Can't find a cold. Billy Bob Thornton's pretty good. He's not in it as nearly as much as Cusack, but his part is obviously very pivotal, and he's good. His inclusion made me think of A Simple Plan, the movie that he was in with Bill Paxton. That was a Sam Raimi movie. Has a similar premises. Similar premise. Also has a bit of a Coen Brothers feel to it. So kind of has like a Fargo feeling going on with the snow and kind of like a William H. Macy, trying to swindle. So kind of think of those. It's along those lines, darker comedy. First thing that comes to mind whenever I think of the Ice Harvest, I think of the Ice Storm, which is a Ang Lee movie. They're very dissimilar. Excuse me. Ugh, that was going to be a bad video. Anyways, Ice Storm, very dissimilar, except that they both have ice storms. Anyways, so yeah. I think that's going to be my review, because I can't talk anymore. So, make this short and sweet. For my sign-off, I'll say, as Wichita falls, so falls Wichita Falls. I might have messed that up. Alright, later.